Hi, I'm Jon Levine, and I'm with Chris Gordon on Hellblazerbiz.
Everyone, I have the honour and the privilege of the company of Jon Levine, joining me from Atlanta. So, hey, Jon, how are you?
I'm very good, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you. I appreciate you actually accepting. It was great.
Absolutely.
You are another one on my list of Cobra Kai's.
We've been very popular these days, us Cobra Kai's.
Yeah, I can imagine. Before we even go into the question, stuff like that, it's like, yeah, that's shock. Well, it's not shocking. It's great. As in shocking, and shockingly good. The fact that it's just blown up, #1 series on Netflix worldwide.
Crazy to even think. And listen, it's always had a great following. It's always had fans that just absolutely loved the show, and it was such a community around it. And then so they were always very enthusiastic. And then all of a sudden it came onto Netflix, and boom! I mean, the whole world is talking about this, which was fantastic.
Even my Facebook, I get in articles from like mainstream media saying, with all the different Cobra Kai theories and this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, I know that already. It's like, we've been discussing that for ages. Come on.
Right. It's like, I was doing this when this was underground. You know what I mean? Don't you worry. You're just catching up now.
Yeah, exactly. I keep trying to put my little link on and say, if you want to see some interviews with them. Best way to do it. No, it's great, and I mean, we'll get onto that after. But yeah, it's a fantastic show. So, and how did you end up being an actor and a stand-up comic? Because I know that's what you started with as well. That must be very different and same, I guess, in a way.
So, when I was a kid, like a young kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, my parents started putting me to national TV commercials, or started putting me to commercials, and I ended up doing some acting work back then, and it really kind of influenced. I didn't realize it, but it influenced just how I kind of enjoyed doing things and being in front of the camera and being in that environment. But then we were living in New Jersey at the time. I was working in New York, and then we moved down to South Florida where I grew up. And there was no industry down there, so I stopped doing it, but always kind of stayed around the performance mediums. I got into TV news and public speaking and things of that nature, where I was on stage or in front of a camera, or and then I sort of got into more of a corporate life. I got into marketing. I was a marketing director for a while and doing that kind of thing. And when I turned 40, I sort of sat down and said, all right, I'm 40 years old. If I could do anything with my life at all, what would it be? And stand-up comedy was actually the answer to that question. So I was like, you know what? This is what I wanted. So I started becoming a stand-up comedian, going open mics, writing jokes, doing all that kind of stuff. And about a year into that, I was like, I like this. I enjoy it. I had some other stand-up comedian friends that were also doing some acting work. And I was like, maybe I get back into acting. So I got an agent and started doing some TV commercials down in South Florida. And then about 3 years into that, I decided, if I'm going to do this, which I wanted to, I'm going to go where it's happening, and that was Atlanta. So in 2016, I moved here from South Florida, and been here ever since, and been very thankful and lucky that I've had the opportunities that I've had. So that's the nutshell.
Fair enough. That's a great one. It's great as well because you've obviously had experience outside as well. And I was going to say, you're actually the second New Yorker from them who I've got on, because Rick Perez, sorry, I really just insulted everyone from New York. I'm so sorry. Rick Perez, obviously, he came on recently as well. He's from New York. He's brought up in New York, and he's got the same sort of thing. I think he had, he's gone out and he's done different types of work, and then he's got back into the acting, should I say. So it sounds, it's really good sort of. Because I say you started out doing the accent, then you.
Yeah, and I think I'll be honest with you, because people, the question I always get asked just by friends or colleagues of mine, there was like, do you wish you had started doing it earlier? Do you wish you didn't wait until you were 40? And I think the answer is no. And the reason being is because I had all that experience, sort of getting to the corporate life and working a corporate job and doing all the, those types of things. I had a better appreciation for it. Like it's not something I know what it is and I understand it a little bit better and I have more life experience. And I think that's why I've been so lucky, in the opportunities that I've had, because I come to it with life experience. I'm not just some, kind of 20-year-old kid that's just like, oh, I want to be an actor. And, and that's fine too. And there's tons of those people and I'm friends with all of them and they're great. But I think there's a little bit something extra I'm able to bring to the table because of that experience that I've had, just doing what I've been doing. And so I think I just have a great appreciation for the industry and for what I'm doing.
No, fair enough. That does make a lot of sense. And I mean, you're right, because you can bring. There's a lot of characters who are sort of our age, because you're about the same age as me, so who are our age, and where you can actually have that and having that life experience. I mean, I did it a couple of years back. I was an extra. I actually had a speaking part in an independent film. I was like, yee-hee. And that's what drew me back in. You're right, because I've had all that, 20 years. I've got into acting at school and university. I loved it, doing, amateur theatre, and I actually adored it, but I got steered into IT, where I've been here for 20 years. But then a couple of years ago, a friend of ours is a indie film director, and she, excuse me 1 minute, and she got me in the film. Didn't tell me what the character was. I'm not going to repeat. It was very, very bad looking, very nasty character. The kind of person I would actually probably, who I would and definitely do despise in real life. But I had a few lines in there, and it was just absolutely fantastic. But it was the role I was playing was an office manager. So I was like, they all of them, including the experienced actors, actually did come up to me and congratulate me. She said, "You acted that so naturally." I said, well, I've been one for 20 odd years. I said, that wasn't acting for me. That's my day job.
Right. And I mean, a lot of the roles that I end up playing are sort of, the career professionals. I get a lot of like IT guys. I get a lot of, just sort of your office people. And, just that's my look. That's how I read on camera, it's, I mean, obviously there's different nuances to different characters and the way they behave in certain scenes, but in that role, I mean, I've been there. I've worked in an office before for years. I know what that dynamic is like. I know what people act like in that dynamic. I know that person that you're trying to write into this story. So it's bringing that to the table, obviously is invaluable. So.
Excellent. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it is good. And I say I'd love to do more, but I've got that little scarediness of not wanting. There is. I mean, you guys have all done it, and I so respect every one of you for taking that leap. It's that tiny little, the giant leap, isn't it? It's just that I can't seem to do it, and I get to that point, and then I'm like, no, I'm too scared. I can't go for it.
You gotta have a thick skin. You gotta be okay with rejection in this business, because if you're not, you're gonna get a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like anything else. If you love it, listen. I have and will do this job for free just because I love the craft and I love studying and I love being on set. I love all those things. Now, just don't get any ideas. I still want money. Don't get me wrong.
You've just done it now. That's it.
Right. John and the other crowd, we paid that guy? He would have done it. My agent would be upset about that. But it's true. You really, I get a lot of people, send me messages on Facebook. And, I'm thinking about getting into acting. I said, it's great, fantastic. Here's a couple, things that you should do. And I said, but understand, it's, you have to have the desire that you would do it for free, for no money, for the rest of your life. And that's how much you have to love it just to do it, because that's what it's like. It's not a money making business. I mean, top stars, yeah, sure. But being a working actor is a tough business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you say if I'm used to, I've got I fear rejection. It's not because that's why I do this show, to be honest. It's because for me, it's it's the in between time, because I get to talk to great guys like you who are actually in the trade, and so I kind of keep my foot in. And I'd love to do this profession. I've been building this up as well, but it's the same passion in there. But for every person, like yourself, I'll get on who's a really great guy. We'll have a great chat. There's probably about 60 or 70 who either never responded to me whatsoever, or just get Ian McKellen. I'll name drop. So Ian McKellen, fantastic actor. I still love him to bits. Brilliant, absolutely top notch. His PA, Sir Ian McKellen, would rather not come onto your podcast. Thank you very much. I was like, That's a polite put down, to be fair. So.
You're not going to catch all the fish. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
As long as you're keeping yourself fed.
Exactly. That was when I was like, you know what, I'm going to aim really, really to the top. Why not? Because if you don't shoot for the stars, where are you going to get?
That's right. Exactly. Shoot for the stars, you land on the moon, as they say. So
exactly, yeah. And I've ended up talking to people like yourself, which is fantastic, and that's why I keep moving. And it's a passion that's inside.
Like Sir Ian McKellen and then me. I mean, it's very close, right? It's very.
It is, yeah. You are, yeah.
Right there.
You're pretty much on that level.
And if I had a British accent, I mean, I'd be right there with him. That's all the only thing I'm missing. Is, you know.
Well, yeah. Naturally. Yeah. But you should be able to do one. You're a good actor.
I've been working on it.
It's better than my New York one. Oh, 1 sec, I've just got to close the door now because my wife's back, so I don't have to have the door open for the dog. Sorry about that. Okay, right. Well, yeah, no, you're right. It's a cracking thing, and it's a passion that you've got to have, and that's a passion I see in everyone I talk to. It's amazing. In stand-up comedy, obviously, the other side of things, I just wanted to bring on that because that's notoriously difficult. So, how did you? I mean, if you've had that experience in life anyway, did that help you deal with tough crowds? Because I don't think I could do stand-up. I mean, I've talked in front of people, but stand-up comedy, nope.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not funny. Doesn't help.
Trust me, I know a lot of unfunny stand-up comedians, so I don't think that's a prerequisite. You know, it's funny. Like I said, I started when I was very young, being, talking in front of people and being on camera and sort of being okay in that position. I got very comfortable, not knowingly, just because, when you're a kid, you do stuff and you do it. You don't think it's a big deal. You're not scared of it. You just do it. And when I got into stand-up comedy when I was 40, I had some pretty early success at it. I mean, I was voted the funniest kid in my high school when I was a senior in high school. So I mean, it's being funny is not something that was kind of foreign to me. Yeah. So and people who were stand-up comedians in the scene in South Florida where I had started. One of them actually came up. We were having a conversation about something, and he mentioned something to the effect of like, "Yeah, everybody thinks you're stealing your jokes, but we can't figure out who you're stealing it from." And I stopped for a second. I was like, and that obviously stealing jokes in stand-up comedy is, I mean, that's
yeah.
And I got like, I was like, wait a minute, like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you've only been doing this for like 2 months, and you're killing it up there. He's like, so there's no way that. I said, listen, he was 25 at the time. I said, I've got 20 years on you. I said, that's where, I said, no, I haven't been doing stand-up comedy that long. I said, but I've been living life for 40 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. I said, that helps me to, and I said, and getting on stage is not a nerve-wracking thing for me. So it was a very actually easy transition into that, look, stand-up comedy is extremely difficult, and you're not wrong about that. It is a very hard thing. Yeah. I actually found acting to be much more difficult. And the reason being is because, like you said, with your show, this is your production, right? You're running the show here. Yep. You know what you want to say. You know the questions you want to ask. You know the timing of it. And that's very similar with stand-up comedy. You're on stage. You've got the jokes you want to tell. You could switch up the order. You can change the punchlines. The audience has no idea. They don't know. They're just listening to the show. Yeah. When it comes to acting, there's 75 people standing around you when you're doing your job that know exactly what you have to say, exactly how you have to say it, exactly what they want to hear out of you. And there's all these other actors that you got to do things in timing, and it's not, you're performing for that audience right there just to do it. And there's a camera, So to me, that's a little bit more nerve-wracking because it's not. I'm in less control, if that makes sense, of that process. So, yeah.
It's really good description, and when you think of it like that,
it's really hard. I don't want to get a whole bunch of emails from stand-up comedians being like, they're both very difficult. I mean, very difficult things to do. There's no doubt about that. I just found the accountability, I guess I would say, with acting is much more immediate and much more, like this is what we want you to do, and you have to do it. And all these people are waiting for you to get it done because time is money. Clock is ticking. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's why I'd be bad at it because I can't remember I remember the jokes, but I'll just forget where I am. There's a famous comedian in the UK called Bob Monkhouse, or he used to be, obviously passed away a few years back. Very famous for the fact that he knew fluently thousands of his jokes, and he knew the whole book inside and out, and he could just rattle them off like that. And it was just like, that was, he'd just go up there. There's another guy called Ken Dodd who again passed away, and he'd come on. You should look him up on YouTube, anyone could. Ken Dodd, he was a Scouse comedian, Liverpool comedian. He had a little tickle stick. Back he was more vaudeville. He was like the old vaudeville days. So,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
he actually famously said, when he comes into, we go into his show and he used to open it, he goes, "This is the most safest show on the earth." He goes, "Because you come in daylight and you leave in daylight." He would go on. He would literally go on for 6, 7, 8 hours solid. And people do. You'd go at 7 in the evening, and you'll come out at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's amazing.
He's really funny. Yeah, definitely good. And being in Atlanta as well, there's such a good network down there. I've noticed that with a lot of the people I've been speaking to. It's become like the Hollywood of the South. Really, it is.
Yeah.
But you guys, you are such a close-knit, mutually supportive network of people down there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And it's very, I've never lived in LA. And I always hear the comparisons of in LA, everyone's very kind of insular. They don't, you don't deal with a lot of other actors. Everybody's kind of out, I don't want to say out for themselves, but they're focused on themselves, I should say. And, kind of doing their own thing. Whereas, like you said, it's the opposite here. We all try to help each other out. We all, want Atlanta to succeed as an acting location, or as a, industry location. Mm-hmm. And it is. And it's, I don't know if anyone else has said this to you on your show, but they call it Yollywood, so instead of Hollywood, but it is, and it's just absolutely blowing up, which is fantastic. It's and I've met a lot of great people. People I obviously worked on Cobra Kai with, but other people that I've worked on other productions with, or just in acting classes, or seen people over and over at auditions. One of the things you start to learn, especially with commercials, is you walk into a room, a waiting room, and there's 10 other guys that look just like you. They're looking for something very specific. So it's like, okay, we want a guy that's this age to this age, and is, this tall to this tall, and, beard, no beard, dark hair. So, you learn all the same, you see the same faces of people that, like, oh yeah, so I know the last one. Hey, how'd that go? Did you book that thing? So you start, and it becomes very friendly. And then, there's a lot of social groups that have kind of popped up around here, focused on the entertainment industry. So, there's like this Facebook group that's a sports league for people in the entertainment industry here in Georgia. So we all get together and go bowling, or we all get together and we play golf, or we go on ski trips together and do all that kind of stuff. And there's 2,000 people in this group, and it's an amazing thing. So it's a wonderful community, and it's very social, and everybody's very friendly, and that's a huge boost. I think it's, because everybody wants to do well, and everybody wants everyone else to do well.
Definitely. And it sounds, it is a really nice thing to hear, because it's a notoriously cutthroat industry, the entertainment industry. I found that I'm not going to go into the details, but I found that doing my podcast, when I might have given ideas of how to make a TV show from it and stuff, and I've talked to certain people about it, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, fantastic idea! I'll support you every way I can." Then it's the next thing, they've done it themselves, and I'm like, "Whoa!" I'm just like, "Really? Thanks." And so, but it's a very good to hear that is such a big group of support. That mutually supportive. I find that very much so with the independent network in the UK as well. Yeah, very, very close knit, all supportive of each other as well, and it's such a nice thing to see that. Like you say, you can go to an audition and there's no animosity that, "Oh, I saw you last time." No, it's like, "Oh, did you book that?" It's
it's people are and look, I looked at stand-up comedy this way. I look at acting this way. It's like being a professional golfer, right? You can't play golf, or you can't play defense in golf, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing that you can do that's going to stop the other person from playing the game that they're going to play. So all you can do is do your best work. And if it's good enough to get the win, great. If it's not, you'll get it. You'll get them next time, as they say. So it's having animosity against somebody, trying to put other people down, it's not going to get you anywhere. It doesn't make any sense to me, at least. So, and I think a lot of other people here have that same kind of outlook on things. So, and that's why it's the community that it is.
Excellent. It is great, and and I say everyone I speak to from Atlanta, you've all got the same ethos, and that's something nice to. It is good to see. But that's how I think it's obviously working with Atlanta as well, because there is, you're a force to be reckoned with in that way. Actually, it's something that people respect and people want to, get to, and obviously location-wise for budgets, it's cheaper for them than LA, obviously. But
no doubt about that. And it's an easier. I used to live in New York City, and I love New York City. It's my favorite city on the planet. But it's a tough life. I mean, it's a tough place to live. Expensive, and it's crowded, and it's just getting from one place to another is difficult. And but that's the charm of it. I mean, if you can, you kind of survive there, it's a testament to who you are as a person. And LA is a little bit more laid back, but again, it's expensive. It's there's a lot of insulation amongst groups of people and things of that nature. Yeah, Atlanta's just it's a great space. It's their city. There's mountains. There's every little bit, and people are super friendly around here. Just not even people in the industry, just people in general. I mean, it's a wonderful place to just live, I think.
Excellent. No, I'd love to go and visit one day.
Yeah. Well, if the Tourism Council of Atlanta is listening to this, please give me a call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. You can appear on that. So that's another commercial. Yeah, get booked. Excellent. And also, speaking obviously of the auditions and process around that, how did you land the audition for Cobra Kai, or Cobra K as your character?
Yeah, so I actually got two or three auditions for different parts for that show. One was a mechanic, and then the other one was something else. I don't remember. And then this one for the health inspector. And I think the mechanic one was first. I think it was just a mechanic that was working at LaRusso Auto, had a few lines.
Okay, yeah.
So I did that one and turned it in, and I don't know, maybe a week later or something, I got another audition in the middle, and I don't remember what that was, but it was something even smaller. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And then because we're all helping each other tape and do because a lot of the auditions are on tape here. So we're helping each other tape. So you'll see other, my friends will be like, hey, I got an audition I have to shoot. Can you help me out? And it'll be for Cobra Kai, or it'll be for something. You know what's happening, even if you're not auditioning for it. And then the health inspector one came in, and I was with another friend of mine who actually called me. He's like, hey, I've got this audition for Cobra Kai. He's like, want to help me shoot? I said, oh, I actually have one too. And he's like, great. And he's about my age, as somebody I actually grew up with, and he had the same audition, same character. So I said, let's flip a coin, see who goes first, because you don't want to kind of take other people's, you don't want to get the idea of how they play. So we flipped a coin. He ended up going first. He did his audition. We put it on tape. Then I did my audition, put it on tape. We both sent them in, and obviously I booked the role. But and then they had a call back. They brought me in, and so I was sitting in front of Jon and the rest of the team there, and they were just laughing. I mean, we were just having a good time and just laughing about it. We were doing the scene, and they just kind of loved what I was doing with it, and usually that's always a good sign that when you're making them laugh in the room. And that was it. And the rest of my agent called me about 3 or 4 days later. I was like, hey man, you booked it. So.
Excellent, fantastic. I mean, how does it feel? I mean, the show is brilliant. So, I mean, what do you like most about the show itself?
I mean, obviously there's, I remember going to see Karate Kid in the theater when I was, 12 years old, or, it was 1984 or something like that when it came out. So just the nostalgia, obviously, of seeing Daniel again and seeing Johnny again and seeing, Sensei Kreese and, like all that kind of stuff, brings back a lot of great memories from when I was a kid. So I always thought that was probably the coolest part of it. And then to kind of pass it off to the next generation. I mean, obviously, the storylines are somewhat revolving around the storylines from the originals, and they're intertwining characters and adding new nuanced aspects to to kind of bring it up to date. I mean, one of my favorite lines in that whole show was the scene that I was in prior to me walking into that dojo. Was when Sholo and Billy were doing the scene, and he says, my teacher says you shouldn't genderize, and he's like, what? And he's like, genderize, and then he grabs it and then he throws it up against the wall. I mean, all that stuff was so perfect and so fit with times of if you took the Karate Kid from 1984 and brought it to 2017 or 18. That's what it would be, and I thought they did such a brilliant job, with it, and I thought it was great. I really did. I really thought it was fantastic.
It was. You're right. There's just some. It is. I mean, for me, it's the same thing. I watched it in the cinema back in '84 when it came out and followed and so it is. But I love seeing the fact that it's flipped because I was just the first episode. I was just like, I really feel sorry for Johnny. I said, no, I've seen that, and it wasn't like, Daniel, you're an ass. Basically.
And that was
which is brilliant the way they switched
the roles on it, and all of a sudden it was like, well, you had all these preconceived notions about how you felt about the characters, and then it was like, well, wait a minute, I feel bad for Johnny. Like I feel, like
exactly, yeah.
I'm rooting for him now. Like F Daniel. Like you know what I mean. So it was, yeah. So I thought it was a really brilliant way that they did it and put it together, and obviously it worked because the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and it
is, yeah. Like I said before, it was a hit on YouTube. I think the first episode on YouTube, 84 million views. Is it episode 1 on YouTube? If I remember, that was the last time I looked. It's probably higher now, but yeah. And then obviously Netflix, it came on only a couple of weeks ago, and within days, it was like.
I think it was released on like a Friday, and by Monday, it was like the #1 show in the world.
It was. It was just like whoa.
What? It was like crazy, and and I was so happy to see that because I think the show really not taking anything away from YouTube, but I think it really Netflix gave it the notoriety that it deserved and the credit that it really deserved, and how good of a show it was. Really brought it to a much larger audience, and obviously you can see how the audience reacted to it, and they were just it's a really well done show. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in season 3. I have no idea what happens.
Damn! I was going to say next
question. I'm not breaking any news here, right? I'm like everybody else. I have no idea what's going on. I'm a fan of the show. I watch the show, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the new season. But and now obviously that it's had such success on Netflix, I could see this going to a season 4, season 5. I can't see any reason why they would not want to do those things. So, the success of the show, I think, is just going to grow from here, which is amazing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at Lucifer. Lucifer was another one that went from Amazon. That on Netflix. That's on season 6 now. I think there's another one coming out, which should be a final one. But that's. And you're right, Netflix has got. I mean, YouTube is great. YouTube is fantastic, and it has been a great platform for Cobra Kai. But I think, especially in the UK, I'm not sure what it was in the US. Red YouTube Premium. It's the only way we could watch it.
YouTube Red Premium.
Red. I think is same sort of thing. So it's just an extra subscription. Whereas obviously Netflix, I think a lot more households have generally got that anyway.
Sure.
And I was just watching it with surprise. I was rewatching it on Netflix, and I said, "Oh, it's released! It's released!" And like you say, on the Monday, I was like, "Whoa!" That's the top 10 charts. It was like that.
It's on the front page of Netflix. You flip on Netflix, and whoa, this is amazing. Actually, interesting. A little aside: Tom Ellis, who's in Lucifer. I was on a show with him on Facebook Watch, which was Facebook's premium channel. That was written by his wife, Megan Oppenheimer. She wrote a show called Queen America.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
So I was in that show as well. I played a small part in that show. So I was working with Catherine Zeta-Jones, and a couple other people on that show. But Tom Ellis was in that, and his wife is the person who wrote it. So that was a little.
Tom Ellis is brilliant. I was going to get him on my show at one point when Lucifer first came out, but then obviously that blew up, and there was no chance. So I was like, right. Okay. But I spoke to the rest of them. I've had Mazakine, Amenadiel, Amy. There's some of the main characters, but they all came on. So that's my little claim to fame.
Yeah, great show.
It is, and obviously Cobra Kai is because in defense, Cobra Kai is beating it at the moment in the Netflix ratings, which is cracking. With your scenes, you got to work with Billy as well. So what was it like? So we just kind of explored that. What was it like working with him and facing off? Because he's got to be a funny guy, because he
He
comes
was.
across to me as a really funny stand-up guy.
He was. He was really super nice and really just funny and very personable and very outgoing and very hands-on with the process. As far as him discussing, like, you know, how the character should be in the scenes, not necessarily my character, he was talking more about Johnny, but they were discussing some things about what was leading into the scene and what was after the scene. And he was really, you know, right in there about, this is my thoughts, and this is what I think we should do, and this is why. And really had a really solid grasp of you know, where he saw that character and what that character should be doing. And I thought that was really awesome to see. He wasn't just, you know, like me. I mean, obviously I got no say in anything, so I'm basically just sitting there going, all right, let's do this. You know, but he's, you know, he was right in there with the, you know, the whole executive team, the studio team, and everybody just getting everything done, which was really cool. And Jolo, who you know, also was in the scene, just a really great guy. He was still in high school, I guess, when we shot that, because that was back in like 2017, I guess.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 2017.
Yeah, so he was still in high school, and he's from LA, and he's a Dodgers fan. He's actually wearing a Dodgers shirt in the scene, and I'm a Dodgers fan, so we started talking about that. And his mom was on set, and she was there. It was super nice. But everybody that was on set, everybody that was part of the production, it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And obviously something I'll never forget. I mean, it's really, you know, it's been something that's just been a real feather in my cap as far as the work that I've done thus far in my career. So
fantastic. Thank you. It's lovely. Again, it's lovely to hear that kind of that feedback from someone who's in there. AJ Wilhelm, he actually said, as an actor, he'd like to know how you actually approached the character as the dojo inspector. He said, with the show, and which kind of experience, every character, no matter the size of the role, you always bring them fully to life, and you remember them as you would any main character. So you kind of like to know how you approached it.
Yeah. Excuse me. You know, they when they send out the role, they obviously have a little bit of a breakdown, like what the writers kind of give you as a description of the character. So then, you know, you kind of take that and you distill it a little bit, and you say, okay, this is how they think the character looks, and this is how they think the character acts. Like, what am I going to do? So one of the things that I actually did when I auditioned, and then and in the role, and was they kind of sort of described him as like a little portly, kind of like, you know, almost dumpy type guy that's just a stickler for rules. And so I took my belt and I sucked in and I tightened it like 3 notches too tight, and then, you know, tucked it back in so that my gut was like sticking out over my pants. Just like just an ill-fitting pair of pants, you know?
Yeah.
Because I felt like this guy doesn't care about fashion. He's doing it. He doesn't just give a shit. You know what I mean? And so I did that, and that kind of just gave me a feeling of like who this guy is. And then, you know, the other part of it was, you know, the first line that Johnny says to me, the first thing that Johnny says to me when he walks up, he calls me fat. And this guy, you know, he's calling me tubby. Once, you know, I lose that gut, and I'm like, who the F is this guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of put a little spin on it, where maybe I might not have been so kind of, sticking it to him, but you know, after he did that, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put you in your place a little bit. So there was that part, and even on set when we were doing the scene, John Hurwitz came up to me and he was like, look, he's like, you know, you're telling it to John. You've got the goods on him. He thinks he's so cool. You just give it to him. I'm like, all right. And then you know, just kind of did it. And you know, sort of that face-off scene when he's reading the piece of paper about how, you know, he's got to do all this stuff. And, you know, and that was sort of the pivotal, like, you know, yeah, but you knew all that when you signed your lease, right? You idiot, you know, that type of thing. So that's really kind of how it kind of developed, and you know, what I brought to the role, and that's the collaborative process. I mean, that's, you know, I bring a little bit to the role, and the director has an idea of what he wants brought into the role, and some stuff you just find when the cameras are rolling, you just do stuff and it just works, and that's really, you know, how it happened.
Fantastic. Oh, so I love the story when he does come at you and says you're fat. I was thinking, when I was at my work, it was like this mirrored a situation, because when I started this new job, I went to London and I had a colleague who was going to leave and handing over, and we were just talking about, you know, getting to know past, and said, look, I said, that's one of the pictures when I was like 24 and dead slim. So why are you so fat then? I was like, right, okay, yeah, thanks for that. So now I know how to treat you. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what Johnny did. I mean, his first inclination was to say, "Hey, you want to lose some weight there, buddy?"
Oh, yeah.
And it's no. So, but
Yeah, he's pretty blunt as Johnny, which that's what makes me laugh about it, and obviously what a lot of
right.
people love about it. It's just the fact that
Absolutely, yeah. His blunt, his directness, and the fact that he's like so stuck in the past, I think, was such a great character.
Oh, yeah.
That he hasn't evolved. I mean, he's the same guy that he was when he was in high school, 30 years ago. And I think that was a brilliant character.
And when he's on the internet and he's like, all the adverts.
Right. I mean, just all that kind of stuff, and the cell phones and this, he just doesn't understand any of it. I think is just absolutely hilarious.
It is. It's absolutely perfect. Helen Irvin's she's actually asking and saying, you make hilariously funny videos where you put yourself in the scene of a film. Have you ever used those for self-tape audition?
So just to explain to, I guess, the listeners, so during the quarantine that obviously started here back in like March, about like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks into it, I was bored out of my mind, like just about everybody else. And there was no auditions, and there was nothing going on. And I always kind of have a desire to create. And I had to do something for my agent. My agent had asked me for something. And I was like, well, I'm just doing it on a green screen. So I have a green backdrop. This is the gray one that I use for auditioning, but I put up a green one and did whatever I needed to do for her. And I'm like, well, now I got this up. Like, what else can I do with this? So I just started messing around and putting together these. I took old movie scenes of movies that I love and kind of wrote new little stories around the dialogue that was already there, and then just edited myself into doing it. That's what that question's about. That kind of took on a life of its own, which was really super cool. I mean, I thought they were funny, but people just absolutely loved them. And I started pumping them out on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And, so people loved it, and they started watching. And then my agents were like, hey, can you put together like just like kind of a clip reel of all of them and put it, somewhere that we can send it out to people. So the answer to that is yes. I'm using some of that to help me book work. It's more so on my agent side, where they're like, if it's a comedic role or whatever, they're able to show that to casting directors or producers and stuff to say, yeah, this guy's got chops, he can do it. This is what he was just doing on his own. So I think it's certainly helping, and just staying creative helps anything. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's a muscle. You got to keep working it.
Especially with the lockdown, it's been so horrendous for everyone. So you've got to, especially with the acting, even theatre, obviously everything's stopped. So everything's just gone. So
the good news is that it's starting to pick back up. At least here it is. Yeah. I'm actually working next week, which is the first time I'm going to be all year. So that's nice. We're going to be on set next week. So I'm in the process of getting 4 COVID tests in 10 days. I mean, no kidding. Like every other day, basically, I have to take one before I get to set, which is great because it's good. It's
it's nice and safe. Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. But thankfully, I'm finally working again next week, so I'm happy to get back on set and do some stuff. So
that's brilliant. That's great news to hear. Joseph Sutton is, will you, this is a one you wouldn't be able to say anyway, is, will you ever return to inspect the dojo? See, I think you should come back and give Kreese a citation.
Yeah, listen, I would love to. And it's funny, in the scene that I did, the second to last line or whatever, before I get to the Cobra Kai part, I say, I'll drop by next week for another inspection. So people always ask me, like, I was waiting for you to come back. Like, how come I thought you were going to come back? And it just obviously wasn't written into the show. But, people always ask me, would you come back? 100%. I'd love that character. I think that character's hilarious. I would love to do more with that character. So I would certainly, I would welcome, coming back and inspecting the dojo, especially now that Kreese is there, which I think would be even funnier, frankly.
It would be, I could just
giving him a hard time. Possibly getting punched in the face or something.
Yeah, I'd say I don't think Kreese would be as accommodating as Johnny.
That's true. Who wasn't very accommodating. So.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. I've got one quick question now, which is my signature question to you, John. Sure. It's an off-the-wall question. It's a personality question. A guy on my show came on my show ages ago, Mike Quinn, who was a Muppet. He's not a Muppet. He was a puppeteer. He wasn't. And the question got asked him. He's worked with Jim Henson for 30 odd years, and Dark Crystal and all that kind of stuff. And someone asked, if you could have a Muppet created after you, what kind of Muppet would you be and why? After your own personality, you could have a mix of existing ones or whatever you want.
So I kind of think it would be like a funnier version of Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay.
Kind of like that nerdy, sciencey type, you know, because I'm kind of into all that stuff, and you know, like, but obviously with a little bit of more of a comedic, you know, he was the straight guy, and Beaker was the funny, the fall guy. Right, exactly. But I think if you create him up and around me, I think that's what it would look like, and that's the personality that would have a funny Dr. Bunsen honey.
Cool, fair enough. Mix Fozzie and Dr. Bunsen bit.
There you go. Something along those lines. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a mixture of Fozzie and Dr. Bunsen.
So you can imagine putting the Bunsen bit, yeah, doing all the tests. Waka, waka, waka.
Exactly.
Oh dear. Okay, John, is there anything? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Before I close and before I stop recording for this, is there anything you would like to say to people who are watching and listening to this now?
Obviously, thanks for having me on the show. This was a wonderful experience, and you know, I'm always thankful when people just want to listen to what I have to say, because you know, that's always a nice thing. And just a thank you to all the fans that have been watching the show, and you know, back from when it was on YouTube and the cult following that it had, to now really this worldwide audience, and it really made the show, you know, like we said, #1 in the world, and giving it all the credit that it's due. And it's always a wonderful thing to be a part of something like that. And it's all because of the fans and because of the support and love that they've given it. So thank you for all of that.